Hi students, welcome to the session. First, can somebody confirm quickly if I'm audible, visible, loud and clear? Audible, wonderful, wonderful. Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Fine. So what is there on the screen is the details about our test series. I hope you're aware. So many of you have been preparing for some time, and if you think that you have done a bit of it, then I believe that you can start taking the tests as well. So these are a few details about the test series. So we have all the kinds of packages available for it. This is only for RCMs, RCS. This is only RCM, the full length mock tests. This is only sectionals, and we have got a variant in which omits are also included. So if you need the tests, you can look at this. Now, coming to the agenda of today's session, we are going to discuss a quant-based puzzle. I already announced that, right? So it's going to be very, very close to the kind of questions that appeared in CAT this time. And when we create content, when we keep making content, optimizing content, the focus is on recency. There's a slight bias towards the recent kind of sets that have appeared. So we have realized, and in fact, it's been happening for some time, that the kind of sets that appear in CAT now are a little more biased towards numbers, some use of numbers. They're not tough, but when logic is mixed with numbers, it becomes a little more challenging. थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा मुश्किल हो जाता है. So yes, this is one such kind of puzzle, and trust me, you'll not find it difficult. But what I would want from you would be your 100% effort. Fine. So you should try and do it, and I'm going to explain it in detail. Okay, so yes, yes, yes. So if you're prepared to do it, I'm going to show you the puzzle then. So this is the question on your screen now. The length, the type of questions that are asked, the kind of work that's needed, exactly cat-like. I would say cat 25-like. If you apply yourself, you will be able to do it. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or maybe even a little more if all of us agree on that. And I would want you to do this on your own. I'm going to explain it after that, right? So this is your puzzle. Please get started. Please solve it. You will grow in confidence once you can do this. If you find it a little difficult, a little challenging in the beginning, give it another go. So speed is not important at this stage, right? The important thing would be the ability to solve. I keep saying this in my classes also. So do it, you'll grow in confidence. Get started. Good luck. For CET, the course and the test series is already going on. Yes. From merit chain? Okay, wonderful, Nitya. So it's time to learn LRDI then, Nitish. It's a little more complicated than syllogisms and a little more important as well. No, that's not right. That's those answers are not correct. Must have made some mistake. Should we discuss it? करें इसको discuss? What do you say, guys? Yes. Chalo, let's look at this. Okay, we'll do it in steps. Let's first understand the question, though it's not too difficult, but still, let's first understand what it says. Five cities A, B, C, D, E lie on a straight line from west to east in that order. So, what would that mean? It would be like that, west to east. So, when we have to take directions on paper, we'll always do it like that. So, this is west, this is east, and it seems to be suggesting that they go in this order. So, the cities would be like this: A, B, C, D, and E. This is east and this is west, right? What is happening here? The distance between each pair of consecutive cities is 300 kilometers. So what does that mean? These are the marks, then it is like that. This is 300, 300. It goes like this. So this would be 300, this is 300, this is 300, and this is 300. Simple data. Each city is the westernmost border city of a different country. Now, this is important here. What is the meaning? That all these countries, all these cities fall in different countries. But when it says the westernmost border city of a different country, this is different. I mean, that was the part which you need to understand in this question. So if this is the westernmost part of a country, this is westernmost part of another country, this is westernmost part of another country. So if I talk about the city of A, A जो city है वो किस country का हिस्सा है? So I can share it like that. So you can say that this would be the region of this country. Can you see that? So A is, if this is the country, this whole thing, this whole road or whatever you call it, falls in this country, then A would be the westernmost part. Likewise, if I show you, what would be this? This would be the country in which B lies. Likewise, this would be the country in which C lies, and this would be the country in which D lies. And इसके बाद की बात ही नहीं की है. We have not talked about it. So this is what it says: westernmost border city of a different country. So these are different countries. So this area would belong to the country in which city A lies. This area would belong to the country in which city B lies. So this is how it's working. And the currencies used in the countries of A, B, C, D are alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. So it means that in this country here, in this range, this current currency alpha is going to work. Here it would be beta, here gamma, and here it would be delta. Again, simple data. We just had to decipher this statement. So matlab kya hai? Ab, what does it say? This is important. No two of the four currencies have the same value relative to each other. You understand the meaning? So every currency would have a different value. So different value means it doesn't. It's like 1 rupee is not equal to $1, right? It's very different. So the way it works in real life, all the currencies have different values. But when it says no two of the four currencies have the same value relative to each other, it means that they have different values. It doesn't mean that if there are four currencies, two can be same and they can be different from the rest two. All four would be different. Fine. So that's the meaning, and this is an important statement for this. Between every pair of adjacent cities except A and B, there are two petrol pumps. Fine. So यहाँ पर कोई petrol pump नहीं है, and apart from it, here there are two petrol pumps, two petrol pumps, two petrol pumps. One pump is located 100 kilometers from the western city and the other 100 kilometers from the eastern city. Now, what would this be like? Yeah, so कुछ हो जाएगा. जैसे if we talk about C and D, there'll be two petrol pumps like that. So here, this region, this thing, would be 100 kilometers. Likewise, this part would be 100 kilometers here. This is 100, this is 100, and this would be 100. Likewise, there'll be two here, two here. So that we can say two petrol pumps in between this. So the gaps would be like 100, 100, 100. अगर इसको देखें हम सी एंड डी, टू पेट्रोल पंप्स, दिस इज द फर्स्ट पंप, दिस इज द सेकंड पंप, सो दिस गैप वुड बी 100, then 100, then 100. It would be like that. Again, not too complicated. And there are no petrol pumps between A and B, तो इसके बीच में तो कोई है ही नहीं. So this is the exact setup. Can you understand this? I mean, I hope इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. So this is the exact thing. If you understand this, then this question is nothing. It's just that the data given is in such a manner that it can become a little confusing. Not ambiguous or anything, but yes, it can be a little taxing. But if you understand this, then the question becomes simple here. Now, if you know this, if you understand this, let's move further. Mahi starts on his bike from city A. So Mahi starts on his bike from city A. Mahi starts from this place. Fine. And with an empty fuel tank, right? He buys petrol worth exactly 1000 अल्फा एट ए. तो यहाँ से स्टार्ट होता है, एम्प्टी टैंक था, एंड यहाँ पर ही फिल्स इन हिज बाइक विद पेट्रोल वर्थ 1000 अल्फा. यहाँ तो यही करेंसी चलती है. एंड बिगिंस ट्रैवलिंग टुवर्ड्स ई, इधर की तरफ स्टार्ट हो जाता है. सिंपल. ही कंटिन्यूज राइडिंग अंटिल द फ्यूल रन्स आउट, विच हैपेंस टू अकर एट अ पेट्रोल पंप ईच टाइम. तो जब तक पेट्रोल नहीं खत्म होता, ही कंटिन्यूज राइडिंग. एंड जहां भी पेट्रोल खत्म होता है, देयर इज अ पेट्रोल पंप. लकी गाय. एंड सो इट्स लाइक दैट. तो इफ हियर इज अ पेट्रोल पंप, हियर इज अ पेट्रोल पंप, it would be like that. तो इसके पहले यहाँ तो कोई है नहीं. So what we know from this is that the first time he runs out of fuel would happen either here or here. And ये क्या points है? This would be 100 kilometers from B, and this would be 100 kilometers from C, or you can say this would be 200 kilometers from B. 100 का gap था ना. So how is it working? Like this is 100, fine. This is also 100. This is also 100. It's like that, right? So या तो यहाँ पर खत्म होगा या फिर यहाँ पर खत्म होगा, like that. यहाँ पर नहीं हो सकता. During the journey, he stops exactly once at a petrol pump between B and C, once between C and D, and once between D and E. ये तो obvious है कि यहाँ नहीं हो सकता, because there is no petrol pump. It's already mentioned in the question. So what is exactly happening is that his petrol ends, but he runs out of fuel in a manner that two things happen. One is कि उसका petrol pump पर जाकर ही खत्म होता है. He does not have to drag the bike. So this is one important thing. And two, यहाँ पर कभी नहीं होता. It happens once here, so means it would either happen here or here. Once here, मतलब either here or here, and once here. So one of the two petrol pumps here. Again, something that we can understand. Now, most of these things are such that you don't need to remember them. Once you read them carefully, they'll stick, right? Let's read the last part as well. At these stops, he spends 1000 beta, 1000 gamma, and 1000 delta respectively. Now, you know what's happening? Here he spent 1000 alpha, that was written here. ये जो लिखा हुआ था यहाँ पर amount, fine. And when he moves forward, तो यहाँ पर 1000 beta, 1000 gamma, 1000. So when he refuels between B and C, he spends 1000 beta, यहाँ beta ही चलता है. When he refuels between C and D, he spends 1000 gamma, and when he refuels between D and E, to reach the end, he spends 1000 gamma. Again, something that you can remember. And the last statement, when Mahi reaches city E, यहाँ पर इस जगह पर, his fuel tank again happens to be empty. यहाँ आते आते tank फिर से खाली हो जाता है. The bike has a constant mileage, which is there in all such questions, all such logic questions, time speed distance questions. Bike would always have a constant mileage, bikes, cars, everything. And the price of petrol is the same everywhere. Price of petrol is the same everywhere. That's good. But remember, the currencies have different values, fine. And because of which the units of currency that this guy would be required to pay would be different at different places. So this is the complete data. I've read it for you. We have understood. Let's look at the type of questions that it's asking. What is the value of 200 gamma expressed in L5? Means what? We have to find the connections between the currencies. What is the total distance in kilometers traveled by Mahi using fuel purchased in the country of city B? So wherever he stops between B and C, this is the country of city B, right? उसके बाद में कितना वो चल पाया? When he would stop again at between C and D. So one of these pumps and then one of these pumps. So what is the distance is the question. So what it means is when we look at these questions, and then this is also about currency comparison. Somebody buys a fridge from here, this from here. So if we don't get the connection between the currencies, find the relative values of the currencies, we'll not be able to do this. So what we'll need to figure out on the basis of this data would be the connections between the currencies, and then the questions would be simple. Have you understood this part? ये समझ में आ गया आपको? Yes, all right. So I am moving ahead with this now. So what we'll do is that let us remove these questions and I'll draw this a little more neatly for you because it helps, it aids in understanding. So I have just drawn it like that, just a little neater for you. And it's the same thing, same data, everything is the same, but this is the situation. Now you know that this is the west part of it and this is east, and Mahi is moving in this direction. This is all clear to us. And the petrol pumps would be, I'll just mark the locations like this. They would be like that. And let's name them. Now you can definitely understand the situation better. What is happening here? A and B, no petrol pumps between A and B. B and C, two petrol pumps. What is this distance? 100. This is 100. This is 100. This distance is 300. Let me write this as well. But यहाँ पर this would be 100, 100, 100. Now, this is 100. Can you understand this now? So this distance is 300, this total is 300, this is 300, this is 300, it's given to us. But here, the petrol pumps are located in a manner in which this distance becomes 100, this becomes 100. If this is 100 here, and this is 100 here, then the rest would be 300 minus 100 minus 100 becomes 100. So this becomes, it's like three equal parts. So 100, 100, 100. Likewise, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. That's what we name. And these names are arbitrary. मैंने इनको नाम दे दिया P1, P2 just to identify so that I can explain better. P3, P4, P5, P6. So this is the situation. Mahi starts from here. And what is exactly happening? जैसे मैंने बोला ना, दोबारा इस पे नहीं जाना पड़ेगा डेटा पे. When he starts from here, he fills in petrol worth 1000 alpha and stops either here or here. Stops here refueling के लिए, runs out of fuel. Then once either at P3 or P4 and one last time at P5, P6. चार बार उसने फ्यूल लिया. कहाँ पर? Once here at A, then P1 or P2, then P3 or P4, and then P5 or P6. This is the situation. And when he ends at E, when he arrives at E, again runs out of fuel. तो मतलब उसके पास जो ideal situations होती हैं जनरली इन questions में, उसके पास उतना ही fuel था that he is barely able to reach E. Now what is the connecting link here? If you look at this, कुछ भी दिया हुआ नहीं है इसके अंदर. We know the distances, but nothing else is given. So what is the connecting link here? The important statement here, I mean, the bike has a constant mileage or constant fuel efficiency. तो इन सारे questions में implied ही होता है. It's mentioned also here. And the important thing is that the price of petrol is the same everywhere. Now, price of the petrol is the same everywhere. What is the meaning? It does not mean, I mean, if you thought like that, that 1000 alpha would be equal to 1000 beta, 1000 gamma, 1000 delta. No, I mean, it cannot be like that because the currencies have different values. It's mentioned कोई भी दो currencies का same value नहीं है. इसका मतलब क्या है? When he spent 1000 alpha here, just think about that. 1000 beta somewhere here, 1000 gamma somewhere here, and 1000 delta somewhere here. Since the currencies have different values, can we say that the distance traveled by Mahi because of the fuel that he got for these amounts would be different every time? वो तो अलग अलग होगा ना. सोच के देखो. What is happening? He is refueling the bike, an empty bike here at this place. Through that fuel, he travels some distance. वो distance कितना है? It would be either, अगर यहाँ से यहाँ तक देखें, either 400 or 500, और तो कोई हो नहीं सकता. Likewise, he refuels there and reaches here. Refuels there, reaches here. अब क्योंकि पेट्रोल का प्राइस सेम है, फाइन, तो इसका मतलब क्या है? The only difference would be because the currencies का value are different. The only difference would be क्योंकि currencies का value different है, and 1000 alpha definitely would not give you same amount of petrol as 1000 beta. Can we say that? If the petrol costs the same everywhere, currencies का value अलग है, and just think about the first two. He refuels it for 1000 alpha here and 1000 beta somewhere here. Can I say that the distance traveled in the two cases would be different? होगा ही ना. This is the crunch point here. कोई और तरीका ही नहीं है. जब दोनों currencies का value अलग अलग है, पेट्रोल का प्राइस हर जगह सेम है, so what must have happened? The amount of fuel that he must have got, जो उसको पेट्रोल मिला होगा उतने पैसे में, फाइन, उतने करेंसी में, वो तो डिफरेंट रहा होगा ना. क्यों? बिकॉज 1000 अल्फा is different value than 1000 beta, which is different value from 1000 gamma, which is different value from 1000 delta. अगर ये सारी values अलग हैं, so can we say that the distance traveled in the four cases would be different? Can we say that? And this is where we can crack the problem. There can be nothing else. If the four currencies carry different values and he put in fuel worth 1000 alpha, 1000 beta, 1000 gamma, 1000 leta, चार बार उसने रिफ्यूल किया, 1000 यूनिट्स ही दिए बट अलग अलग करेंसीज के दिए, पेट्रोल का प्राइस सेम है, तो उसका मतलब क्या हुआ दैट ही मस्ट हैव गॉट different amounts of fuel every time. Now if he got different amounts of fuel every time, his bike, since it's constant mileage, would travel different distances every time. अब वही हम इसको सॉल्व करने में यूज कर सकते हैं. लेट अस सी हाउ वी प्रोसीड इन दिस. अब क्या होगा, अब यहां पर इसमें एग्जैक्टली अगर आप देखोगे, सो लेट मी जस्ट राइट इट लाइक दैट. फोर प्लेसेस, यू नो करेंसीज वर्क लाइक दैट. यहां पर अल्फा चलती है, यहां बीटा, यहां गामा और यहां पर डेल्टा, यू नो दैट. यहां पर he started and he took 1000 alpha. So let me just write it like that. Let's say this is right. So this is what he spent. Now tell me, in this petrol worth 1000 alpha, how much can he travel or could his bike have traveled? Can I say ये 300 तो डेफिनेटली किया है, बिकॉज ही डिड नॉट रन आउट ऑफ पेट्रोल हियर. यहाँ तो कोई पेट्रोल पंप ही नहीं है तो फंस जाता है यहाँ पर, ठीक है. सो ही आइदर डिड 400 और ही डिड 500 किलोमीटर्स. देयर इज नो अदर ऑप्शन. इट इज मेंशन्ड दैट ही हैड टू स्टॉप एग्जैक्टली वंस बिटवीन दिस, वंस बिटवीन दिस एंड वंस बिटवीन दिस. हर जगह एक एक बार रुकना पड़ा. एंड व्हेन ही स्टॉप्स फॉर रिफ्यूलिंग, उसकी बाइक पूरी एम्प्टी होती है. सो कैन आई से देयर जस्ट टू पॉसिबिलिटीज फॉर द डिस्टेंस दैट ही मस्ट हैव ट्रैवल्ड आफ्टर पुटिंग इन द फ्यूल फर्स्ट टाइम. उसके पास सिर्फ दो ही पॉसिबिलिटीज एंड डिस्टेंस की जो उसने कवर किया होगा यूजिंग द पेट्रोल दैट ही फिल्ड इन हिज बाइक ऑफ 1000 अल्फा. क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज है? वन पॉसिबिलिटी इज दिस 400, यहां से यहां पर बाइक रुक गई होगी एट P1. द सेकंड पॉसिबिलिटी इज दिस P2. देयर इज नो अदर पॉसिबिलिटी. सो व्हाट डू यू चेक? अभी तो नंबर्स ही ऐड करने ना आपको. सो द फर्स्ट पॉसिबिलिटी इज 400. लेट मी जस्ट राइट दिस एज 400. आई एम सेइंग, लेट्स से he travels 400 kilometers because of this. And 400 kilometers means what? If this is 400 kilometers, then his bike must have run out of fuel at P1. अब ये 400 kilometers हो क्या? ये टोटल कितना है? अगर आप इसको देखोगे, this total is 1200 kilometers. If you want to just think of it like that, I can just write that also. This is 1200 kilometers. ये जो टोटल है, right? अब ये जो 800 further है यहाँ पर, इसके बाद ये भी उसको पूरा करना है. Now tell me, if this is 400 kilometers, what can be the distance that he can travel after this? दो ही ऑप्शन है देखो. He stops at P1. अब P1 के बाद में can he stop at P2? No. He stopped once here, once here, once here. So from P1, where can he go? Either he can go to P3 or can I say P4? एक ही दो ही ऑप्शन है. Now the problem is, can he go from P1 to P4? Just think about that. P1 to P4 would be how much distance? 100, 100, 100 and 100. Isn't it? 100, 100, 200 and this is another 200 क्योंकि ये सब 100, 100 है. तो यहाँ से P1 से can he jump to P4? Not possible, because then 400 400 हो जाएगा. अब 400 400 में क्या प्रॉब्लम है? If I write it like that, एक बार के लिए मैं लिख देता हूँ यहाँ पर. Can this be 400 like that? ये ऐसे हो सकता है क्या 400? It cannot be 400. The reason is that if he traveled the same distance using petrol worth 1000 alpha that he traveled with the petrol worth 1000 beta, इसका मतलब क्या हो गया? ये तो बराबर पेट्रोल आया होगा. अगर बराबर पेट्रोल आया होगा, if he got equal petrol, if he traveled equal distance means equal petrol because mileage is constant, it means alpha is equal to beta in terms of value क्योंकि पेट्रोल का प्राइस तो बराबर है. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? That if this is 400 kilometers, this cannot be 400 kilometers. ये तो 400 नहीं हो सकता. फिर अब ये 400 नहीं हो सकता. What is the only other option? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? P1 से ये P4 नहीं जा सकता, तो ये सिर्फ P1 से P3 जा सकता है. तो ये क्या हो सकता है? इसको 300 मान लेते हैं एक बार के लिए. This looks like the only possibility. If this is 300, then what must have happened? He must have stopped at P1 first, 400 kilometers, right? And after that, he must have gone to P3 यहाँ पर. अब ये 300 यहाँ तक ठीक है. And where is he right now? He's at P3 after traveling this 300 kilometers. We can write it like that also. ये ऐसे बोल दो यहाँ पर. ये P1 तक आया and यहाँ पर ये P3 पर आ गया. Right? जिससे confusion ना हो. अब ये जब P3 पे यहाँ पर आ गया, this is 300. So 400 is done, 300 is done. Now where does he need to reach? He needs to reach E from P3. Fine. So after P3, where can he stop? Either P5 or P6. अब देखो अगर वो P5 पे रुकेगा, this would be how much? 1, 2, 3. This is another 300 kilometers. Can you see this? अगर यहाँ आप देखोगे यहाँ पर अगर he stops at this thing, ये कितना हो जाएगा यहाँ पर? This would be 1, 2, 3. ये देखो ये डिस्टेंस जो है ये कितना है, कैन यू सी दिस 300 किलोमीटर, तो ये 300 रिपीट हो जाएगा. अब 300 रिपीटिशन में प्रॉब्लम क्या है, 300 रिपीटिशन मींस यू आर सेइंग 1000 बीटा गॉट हिम द सेम अमाउंट ऑफ पेट्रोल दैट 1000 गामा गॉट. यही तो मतलब हो गया इसका. यहाँ पर ही स्पेंट गामा ऑन पेट्रोल, यहाँ पर रिफ्यूल किया होगा 1000 गामा से. तो इसका मतलब क्या हुआ, इफ आई मेक हिम स्टॉप एट P5 ये 300 रिपीट हो जाएगा. इफ आई मेक हिम स्टॉप एट P6 वो भी तो हो सकता है ना, देन क्या प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा, ये P3 से P6 कितना डिस्टेंस है, दिस इज 400, तो ये बराबर हो जाएगा. तो इन बोथ द केसेस इफ आई मेक हिम स्टॉप आफ्टर P3 एट P5 तब ये रिपीट हो जाएगा 300 300, नहीं हो सकता, चारों डिस्टेंस शुड बी डिफरेंट. If I make him stop at P6, then P3 to P6 would be 400 kilometers. So in either case, we can see that there will be some repetition. चौथे को तो हमें देखने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. इसी की वजह से what we can say is that when we started with this assumption of 400 kilometers, this is incorrect. It means what? His first stop could not have been P1. यहाँ पर उसका पहला स्टॉप नहीं हो सकता था. उसका पहला स्टॉप, because this is not working in any case, नहीं चल रहा. तो अगर पजल ठीक है तो उसका पहला स्टॉप has to be P2. You had to think like that. Can you understand this, guys? The last part, what I'm saying is, देखो छोटा सी लॉजिक है, अगर पूरा देखोगे, the only thing that you need to understand is that since he spent 1000 1000 1000 1000 everywhere, but since the currencies carry different values, the distances traveled by him by this fuel, by this fuel, this fuel and this fuel, they all have to be different, but they all have to add up to 1200 क्योंकि यहाँ से उसको यहाँ तक जाना है. Right, he has to start from A and he has to go till E. Right? So what I'm saying is that when he starts from A, he has to reach either P1 or P2. So the first assumption I took is that he starts from A and reaches P1, which is 400 kilometers. After this 400 kilometers, what options does he have? From P1, he can reach either P3 or P4. Right? He cannot reach P4 because if he reaches from P1 to P4, this is 400 again. So 400 would be repeated and alpha would be equal to beta in terms of value, ruled out. That's why I've ruled out this 400. So the other option is that after P1, he must have stopped at P3. Now, how much is this? This is 300. So this is fine. That's what I've written. This is P1, first stop, P3, second stop. This is all good. After P3, क्या होगा? He has to stop either at P5 or P6. If he stops at P5, then this is 300. So ये 300 repeat हो जाएगा and beta would be equal to gamma in value. Ruled out, not possible. If he after P3 stops at P6, तो ये कितना हो जाएगा? 400 kilometers. Look at this pointer. If this is P3 and then P6, then this would become 400 kilometers. If this becomes 400, then alpha would be equal to gamma. Again, there'll be a violation. What does that mean? That this assumption with which we started is incorrect. This could not have been P1, and this definitely has to be 500 kilometers, and 500 kilometers means the only option was P2. Fine. This could have been the only stop, that he starts from here, fine, and stops here. So basically, in fuel worth 1000 alpha, he must have traveled 500 kilometers and stopped for refueling at P2. मतलब stopped for refueling क्या, खत्म ही हो गया पेट्रोल पंप बजा के, ये है. तो ये हमारा डेफिनेट है. उसके बाद में if he has done 500 kilometers, the rest distance, 1200 minus 500 has to be done by refueling 3 times. कहाँ कहाँ पर? एक बार यहाँ पर, एक बार इन दोनों में से कहीं, और एक बार इन दोनों में से कहीं. Right? Once here, once among these two, and once among these two, and then he has to complete it. That's the meaning. Can you understand this? Understood? Yeah. Up. How do we move forward in this? Once we know that this is like that here, 500, so he is here. Up. What are the options for him? If he goes from this P2, fine. The two options are he can go to P3 और he can go to P4. यही दोनों options बचते हैं यहाँ पर. P2 से या तो वो P3 जा सकता है या P4 जा सकता है. अब P4 is how much? Fine. ये P4, ये वाला तो गलत हो गया because this is 300. P3 इसको छोड़ देते हैं. इसको let me just cancel it. अब यहाँ पर देखते हैं, if he goes till this point P3, this is 200, if he goes till this point this would be 300. अब सबको लिख कर नहीं देखना होता है, just think about it. P2 to P4 is how much? This would be 300. If he does 300, what would happen? How much distance would be left? Can you visualize this? This is 400 left. How would you break this 400 up? We can not break this 400 up in distinct forms. नहीं कर सकते. अगर आप इसको देखोगे ना, if I just write it as, चलो मैं लिख ही देता हूँ, but you should not write it. This is, let's say, 300 kilometers, and then he stops at P4. Can you see this? So after P2, 100, 200, 300. He stops at P4. After P4, अब वो क्या कर सकता है? देखो दो ऑप्शंस हैं. He can stop either at P5 or at P6. P6 में तो प्रॉब्लम सीधा ही है. P4 to P6 is how much? 100, 200, 300. So 300, 300 repeat हो जाएगा, gone. So this course is gone. Can he stop at P5? It looks like he can. ऐसा लगता है रुक सकता है. But problem क्या है इसके अंदर? If he stops at P4 and then at P5, this would be 200. ये अभी तो देखो ठीक लग रहा है. It looks like it is fine. This is 200. But यहाँ पर आपको सीधे प्रॉब्लम दिख रही है क्या आ रही है यहाँ पर? When he stops at P5, what distance would be left? This would again be 200. तो दोनों 200 हो जाएंगे if he stops at P5. अगर मैं यहाँ पर इसको डाल देता हूँ, let's say, and I'm repeating again, you should not write it like this. So this is fine, 500. This is 300, fine. He is at P4. He travels 200. He reaches P5. So these are all different: 500, 300, 200. But what is left? Again, this distance is left, which is 200. So this would be 200, and this would also be 200. What does that mean? That this is also not going to work. 500 to concrete, I mean, because we had two options, but this is not working because this 300 would result in 200 here and 200 here. So what is the meaning then? That this is also incorrect. If this is incorrect, what is the only option left? After this 500 here, 300 is not working, so we cannot jump from P2 to P4. So the only option is P2 to P3. अब ये तो concrete है, ये तो होना ही होना चाहिए ना. There is no other option left. After P2, he could have stopped either at P3 or at P4. So P2 to P3 has to be concrete because P2 to P4 is not working for us. So let me just write that. How much is that? This is 200, and then this is P3. ठीक है, 200 के बाद he reaches P3. अब 200 के बाद he reaches P3. What are the numbers we have? 500 kilometers, 200 kilometers, and this guy is at P3. Where can he stop now? He can stop either here, P5, and then reaches this place, or he can from P3 jump to P6 and then go here. You can clearly see the problem here. Don't write it now. If he goes from this P3 to P5, ये distance कितना है? 300. This seems to be fine. Fine, ये वाला, ये this distance. But after that, he will have to do 200. Can you see that? देखो कहाँ पर है? He is at P3 now. Let's say he jumps from P3 to P5. This is 300, which is different from 500 and 200. But after this P5, how much would he need to do? This is how much? This is 200. तो ये 200 repeat हो जाएगा. So what does that mean? That this P5 is not possible again. So what is the only possibility? That after P3, he goes to P6. There is no other possibility. So let us write that. And what would this be? How many kilometers? From P3 to 1, 2, 3, 4, or 100, 200, 300, and 400. So this becomes 400 kilometers, and the stop would be P6. If he reaches this place, what is left? 100 kilometers. Basically, he reaches E. So when we checked everything, we realized that the only way the condition satisfied would be that when he travels 500 first, so this becomes, P2 becomes our first stop. Let me just put it like that. This is our first stop. P3 becomes the second stop. This is the second stop. And this P6 becomes the third stop. Fine. So he refuels first at P2, then at P3, fine, and then at P6. P2, P3, and P6, and then he reaches E. So that way, the distances traveled in 1000 alpha would be 500, 1000 beta, 200, 1000 gamma, 400, and 1000 delta, 100. Since the mileage is constant, you can just think of this is distances, fine. But if you travel 500 in this and 200 in this, it's obvious that you definitely got more petrol in 1000 alpha than in 1000 beta. आपको definitely यहाँ पर ज़्यादा petrol मिला ना, तभी आप ये 500 चला पा रहे हो, यहाँ पर 200 चला रहे हो. अब if I ask you to compare the currencies, can we say that this currency alpha would be 5 by 2 times of the value of this currency. यही है ना. यहाँ पर आपको just look at this. The distance you traveled in this is 2.5 times of the distance you traveled in this. The distance you traveled in this is 2.5 times of the distance you traveled in this. इसका मतलब क्या है? ये currency ज़्यादा valuable है, and you've got the ratio then. So we can say that कितना है? 500, 200, 400, 100. अब ये 0 0 तो कैंसिल हो जाएगा. So this value would, so this is basically the result that we have got here. Fine. So this currency, for example, if we compare alpha and delta, so alpha would be 5 times more valuable. Fine. So if you spend equal amounts in terms of units in alpha and delta, for example, this one and this one, then in this you'll get 4 times more quantity of petrol. And you can see this here in this 1000 alpha you travel 500, in 1000 delta you travel 100. Why? Because here and here, if you compare these two, you must have got 5 times more petrol, and this is obvious here. So alpha is 5 times more valuable as compared to delta, and that way we've got this ratio. Once we've got this ratio, we can answer anything from here. Is it clear now? You got this, guys? Yes, great. Right. अब तो इसमें कुछ पर बचा ही नहीं है. So we have got the values here, and we can go on to answer the questions. All right, let's look at the questions then. So these are the questions. Okay, what is the value of 200 gamma expressed in alpha? And अब जब भी ये confusion हो, अब किसका comparison पूछ रहे हैं? What comparison they're asking for? 200 gamma. So they're basically asking about gamma and alpha. This is gamma and alpha. First and third one, 5:4. Which currency is more valuable? This is more valuable. So when you do this, because the confusion would always be like, would I do 4 by 5 or 5 by 4? क्या करेंगे? So if this is 200 gamma, alpha में अगर value देखेंगे, because alpha is more valuable, would it become 4 by 5 times or 5 by 4 times? 4 by 5 times. I mean, you do not have to think about it. It's like alpha is more valuable. You can see this, alpha 5 and gamma 4. It means what? अगर हम alpha की terms में लिखेंगे इसको, it will be less. So what would this become? 200 into 4 by 5 equal to 160, which becomes your answer here in this case. The second one, what is the total distance in kilometer traveled by Mahi using fuel purchased in the country of city B? What is the country of city B? It is this place. From where did he purchase the fuel? P2. And from where did he, or till what distance did he go after that? From P2 to P3. ये जो लिखा हुआ है 200. This is the thing. From here, must have refueled and gone till this place. So what is this thing? This is 200 kilometers. Yes. All right. The third one. Chitra, a resident of C. A resident of C means this place here. You always think like that. When I'm saying resident of C, we're talking about this. Which currency are we talking about? Gamma. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. It's like that. So this country expands till this stage. Till here. So what she does is that buys a TV from A, a fridge from B, an AC from D. Okay. And these are the prices. What is the total money spent by Chitra in her local currency? So what does that mean? Alpha, beta, gamma are to be changed into this total money spent in local currency to gamma. So if this is 2000 alpha, this is 2000 alpha. First you have to convert this alpha to gamma. What is the comparison? 5 4. Fine. So this 2000 alpha. Now if you are converting alpha to gamma, यहाँ पर क्या किया था हमने? उल्टा किया था, gamma to alpha. what would this become? 2000 into 5 by 4, which will give you 2500 gamma. Fine. Got this? This is 2000 alpha into 5 by 4. Fine. Because alpha is the more valuable currency and you have to change it to Chitra's currency. Chitra's currency is this. Here it is gamma. Fine. 3000 beta. Look at this, beta and gamma. And beta and gamma 3000. Now, which is more valuable? Gamma is more valuable. And what is the ratio? 2 is to 4, or you can say 1 is to 2. So how much would this become? 3000 into 1 by 2, or 3000 ka half. What would this be? And the third one would be 4000 delta. So this is 4000 delta, and we are comparing between delta and gamma. So this is 4 is to 1. Which is more valuable? Obviously, gamma is much more valuable. How much more valuable? 4 times. So what would you do? You divide this 4000 delta by 4. So what would this give you? 1000. You add the 3, this one, and this one. And what would you get here? You will get 5000. 5000. Obviously, it's already written here that this is in Chitra's currency. What is Chitra's currency? It is gamma. So it is what we have got. So this becomes our answer here, 5000. And the last question, Ayan purchases milk at 60 gamma per liter in C and sells it at 500 delta per liter in D. His transportation and other expenses amount to 5 beta per liter. What is his percentage profit and loss? Let's change everything to delta only. So 60 gamma and delta. Look at this. 4 times. 4 times means this is 4 times more valuable, gamma. So what would this become? 16 to 4, 240. So this is 240 delta. And what is this expense? 5 beta. If you look at this beta and you were talking about delta. So beta delta, which is more valuable? सबसे खराब currency तो यही है ना? Delta सबसे कम value वाली. So beta is also more valuable. कितना? Twice. So this 5 beta would become how much? 5 into 2. This is 10 delta. So what is the total expenditure? He says his transportation other expenses amount to 5 beta per liter. So rate is 60 gamma per liter, which is same as 240 delta. And this expense is 10. Fine. So 240 plus 10 would be 250 and sells at 500. So what is the exact scenario? If we look at it, everything in the form of delta only. So 240 plus 10 is 250. So he basically buys at this, including the expenses, and sells at this. Fine. What is the profit or loss percent? So 250 का buy करा, 500 का sell कर दिया. What is it? It's a profit of 100%. Answer becomes option D here. You got this? Right. So I would say not a difficult question, quite manageable in the sense that it does not involve any drudgery or anything. I mean, the questions that should be scared of are questions that requires a lot of work. This does not require a lot of work. If you look at this, all of this does not require a lot of work. It requires thinking, maybe some thinking, maybe a lot of thinking. But after that, if you look at the work that we have done, in fact, what I've written here is the maximum you would write. Many of these things that I've written, this can be done mentally, could have eliminated, right? The way we eliminate the later parts. Will not write anything. The thing would be that you need to think before writing anything on paper. The problem that many students do is that the moment they look at the question, they would start writing something. That works in maths at times, not quantitative aptitude. These are two different things. We are conditioned from our school for doing math. You look at the question, we start attacking it and doing something on paper. No. Pause a minute and think what it's saying, especially in LRDI. What is it saying? What is it trying to communicate? And then try and solve it layer by layer. This is what you do. So a question like this would be easy if you think first and then start writing on paper. I understand. I mean, if somebody makes you understand this question, then there's nothing in it. अगर आप देखोगे, there is no calculation, nothing in it. The only thing was the comprehension. And why did I say it's cat like? Because these are the kind of question that cat asks you. When people came out of the examination hall after cat 25, most of them said that the paper was very tough, isn't it? I have made the solutions for cat 25. They are on this channel. Look at them. You would say no, it was okay, not very easy, but quite manageable. The way this question was. So what are they checking? Not your ability to apply brute force or use drudgery, but your ability to think on your feet. If it's a newish setup, fine. So some questions I would agree would were a little dull, images were not clear and all, but some questions were actually quite good. We'll have to develop the ability to start thinking. सोचने की क्षमता को आपको थोड़ा सा विकसित करना पड़ेगा, which is important here. So that is the major challenge here. Right, so that was it. So guys, this is just one important thing before I close the session. This is a batch that we started around 3 weeks back. This is the complete English batch. So those of you who are interested in studying with us, and you can check a lot of our videos on this channel to see if we are the teachers that you actually want to study from, then this is the batch for you. So this is still relatively very new, and subject-wise variants are also available. This is the complete thing in which Ravi sir, Apoorv sir, Nikita ma'am, and I would be teaching, and subject-wise variants like this. This is Quant by Ravi sir and Apoorv sir, VRC by Nikita ma'am, and DILR would be taken by Apoorv sir and me. So these are the details. So if it makes sense for you, you can think about this. Right. So I'll close the session. If you've got any final questions to ask me, ask me. Let's close the session. I'll see you again then. Right, folks. So I'll see you again. I'll close the session. Please keep studying. It's still a lot of time left for CAT, but this is the phase, this is the time where which differentiates between people who score okayish and people who score very well, very heavily. This is what differentiates the toppers from the average people. It's not the inherent ability or intrinsic ability. Yes, a bit of it is there, it matters, but this is the effort the people put in at this time when CAT is still some time away. So make the most of it. Please keep working hard. I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.